To the Tynedale Local Area Council today, Tuesday the 9th of November. As always, can I remind councillors about turning off the speakers when not speaking, saves me having to do it. And obviously mobile phones, but I think most of you know that as well at the moment. I've had a few questions over the weeks about why are we still in County Hall, and I've replied to those people who asked us. So just in case other people are thinking, I'll just make it now. Because as you can see, we're still in County Hall for this meeting, which is under the instructions of the Chief Executive Officer. I have spoken to the leader, Councillor Glenn Sanderson, and also to Councillor John Riddle, portfolio holder for this area, who, as far as I'm aware, have instructed the CEO, contact the CEO and informed her that they would like these back in the community as soon as possible. I mean, did you want to say a couple of words about that, John? Or?
Very briefly, just, the fact.
Can you give that again for the
Sorry, yeah,
YouTube?
I'm saying that really, what is the point of having an area committee unless it is in the local area? That was the whole ethos behind setting up area committees, so they were locally accessible and people could walk into them in the local area to either debate points or hear planning applications, etc. And we've got to get back to normal. As long as we can do it in a safe, COVID-safe manner, then I think we should do it as soon as possible.
Thank you for that, John. Okay, right, we'll move on. Nicola, have you got any apologies for absence?
I don't, Chair. Everyone is present.
Thank you very much. We're now going to go to the minutes, just for checking that what's here is a true record. Anybody got any comments on the minutes? Councillor Morford?
Thank you. At the top of page 13, it refers to...
Just page 13, was that?
Yeah.
I can't see because John's in the way. Have you got your microphone on?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes. At the top of page 13, it refers to parking strides initiatives. The correct term is park and stride.
Have you got that, Nicola? Page 13, it says what? The park and... Oh, park and stride. Right. Okay, thank you.
If
Anybody else spotted anything? Oh, you should have just kept going. Come on.
If it helps, there's a minor typo at the top of page 10. It doesn't say which councillor seconded the approval of the planning permission.
Right, yeah, I've got to give us time to get there. So it says what, sorry?
It just stops with the word councillor. It doesn't say which councillor seconded the approval of the planning permission.
Okay. I see where it is.
Yeah.
And who did he say was the councillor? Anybody remember seconding this? Where is Nick? Did you second this, Nick? Can you remember? Corbridge Middle School. Okay.
Probably.
Okay,
If I didn't, I would.
I'm sure Nicola will look that up. She'll have it in her notes. Not a problem.
Sorry, Chair. I will check that. Apologies.
Is that not a problem? Thank you very much, Nicola. Anyone else? We'll go to item number 3, disclosure of members' interest. Would anybody like to... yes, Councillor Riddle.
Just in the interests of transparency, I've already declared it in writing, but I do ad hoc snow ploughing for the County Council.
Okay, and we are talking about winter resilience or something later on, so that's noted. Thank you very much. Anyone else for interest, declaring interest? No? Right. In that case, we'll move on to item number 4, which is public question time. Do we have any public questions, Nicola?
We have not been notified in advance of any public questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 5, which 5A is to receive any new petitions. The first one is Allendale Road, which I believe Yeah, we have the resident Tora right here. You've got 5 minutes, Tora, if you want to speak on this. Are you going to timer, or do you want me to do it? You're going to timer. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Tara Wright and I'm a resident of Allendale Road in Hexham. I started this petition because I live on a particularly bad part of Allendale Road. It's on a blind bend. It started by just having a little bit of a rant basically on Hexham matters because I was having, obviously there's a really bad problem with speeding on this road, and I would get verbally abused by cars just by us trying to come off my driveway. But with the new school opening, there's 2,000 odd children on this new school, and I've got 2 children that now go to this school, and just simply crossing them across the road is becoming a really major problem. And it was becoming a safety problem, them walking down the road. There's problems with the paths, with overgrowth on the paths. That combined with the speed of the cars that are coming down there and the width of the paths and combined with the speed, it became a problem. And I voiced that concern, and it soon became apparent there was a lot of other people with the same concerns. So I created the petition that has then become, there's a lot of support for that petition. I am very concerned as well that my petition doesn't extend to creating a problem on the other roads around the school, because there is other problems with the other roads around the school, but something has to be done. Since starting my petition, there's been 2 accidents on that road, and quite serious ones at that. There was a accident further up the road where it involved an air ambulance and 2 serious casualties, and there was a hit and run just last week, and also on the first day of school there was a child hit at a pedestrian crossing. But not only that, since starting my petition, I've also been made aware of numerous hits by cars that haven't been reported to the police because children, whether it's been classed as their fault, have stepped out in front of vehicles or stepped off the path because the paths haven't been wide enough, or there's been too many children on them, and they've deemed it to be their fault, so they haven't been reported to the police. Minor accidents, but still accidents as such. It's a major problem. That combined by us residents having blind driveways, it's a major problem that needs to be sorted. Where I live as well, I am right outside where the new LED sign is. Me and my husband have done quite a lot of standing outside at the edge of the drive and watching this LED sign. And one particular time we stood out for half an hour, and every single car, bear in mind it's a busy road, on that half an hour strip hit that LED light to say, slow down, you're going over the limit. I do support the blanket 20 mile an hour, that's proposed to go through Hexham. However, this will only work if the road is, if we obviously slow these vehicles down. You can't force somebody that's going to speed to slow down if they're going to speed. I propose that we put something in place to forcibly slow these people down. It needs it before something really serious happens up there. With my petition, I also have Highways came out in just March of this year that said my driveway was really severely unsafe, and I have a shared driveway with another house as well. You will see in my petition the amount of support and the comments that have come along with that, and I have also included a lot of parental comments and also comments from people previously who, some people have witnessed accidents in the past that are still traumatised by those accidents. So you've also got people that haven't had accidents but have witnessed them that are also have lasting damage. But there's a lot of problems with this road. You've got a slower end down the bottom, but there's a problem with paths, and you've got a fast speeding end at the top end, which needs to be forcibly slowed down. So that's all I've got to say about that.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, Tara. Have we received this as an e-petition yet?
She's just handed it over today,
That's fair
and
enough.
obviously that will need to be
Yep.
processed, passed to the officers, and we will respond in due course.
Yeah. So it's exactly as Nicola said, it'll be passed to the officers, they'll prepare a short report. Today is all about receiving the petition, and then when it comes back, or if it goes to the petitions committee, then it'll be discussed at length there, and you'll probably be invited to that as well. Okay, thank you very much for your for presenting that today. Thank you, Tara. Right, we're going to move on to the next one, which is community campaign to amend the use of the military road. I just ask you to say a few words on this, Nicola, because that's a bit more complicated than most. Do you want to say something about it?
Yes, Chair. This one is an electronic petition that is on the council system. It came in a couple of weeks ago, and the ward councillors were contacted. This one's slightly complicated because obviously the stretch that they're talking about is between the A68 roundabout from and then over to Heading on the Wall. So it actually crosses 4 wards, 2 of which are in Tynedale local area council area, 2 of which are in the Castle Morpeth local area council area. So for that reason, as I say, that petition is live at the moment, and when that closes, possibly at the end of November, there will be a report prepared for the petitions committee in January. But as I say, with it being two local area council areas, it will need to go to the petitions committee.
Right, we're going to over the page to B. Well, consider reports on petitions previously received. Do we have the resident here? Or?
No, the resident was invited to attend. I've not heard back from him. My colleague hadn't heard back from him. So we have got an officer here to talk to the report.
Is that Greg, is it?
It is, yeah.
Hi, Greg. Do you want to talk on this, please?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I won't read through all of the report. I'll just sort of summarise the background and the recommendations. So we did receive a petition about the path closure on a right-of-way between Stevenson Terrace and the Country Park in Wylam. That path, as the petition highlighted, has been closed by us since 2013. The path is on land owned by Wylam Parish Council and runs below, or did run below, the local nursery there. The petition also highlighted that the existing temporary fences that we'd put up to keep people safe were being regularly taken down and people walking through them. And although that is an ongoing issue still, we have improved the fencing and the signage, and we are inspecting it more regularly to try and repair it. But in terms of the issue itself, now the County Council obviously has a statutory role as a highway authority, and part of that is to be responsible for the management and maintenance of the rights-of-way network in the county. This route itself was well used by walkers before 2013, and it's got really good connectivity to the rights-of-way network. And it does link the very popular sort of area down by the Country Park to the town. The length of footpath that's highlighted orange in the report just to the east of Stevenson Terrace has suffered from ground instability issues for many, many years. And, you know, we're speculating at the causes of that. We haven't done any sort of detailed surveys, but there are issues obviously with erosion and landslips there. And they're all naturally occurring processes which do take place in river valleys, and this footpath was very, very close to the river. So since 2013, and in fact before 2013, officers have made a lot of operational decisions over the years to try and maintain that path, even though it's been slipping away. So they've authorised within their existing revenue budgets repairs, and they've undertaken ad hoc works on the bankside to try and protect access to that public footpath. But once the progressive regression of that land was too advanced for that approach to be viable anymore, and due to safety concerns for people using the footpath, action was taken in 2013 to put a temporary closure in place and fence the area off. Now, officers have had a number of discussions both with the parish council, the local member, and the adjoining landowner and business owner, and we've sought to assist in finding a solution to the problem, but it hasn't been very easy. So an example of how officers have tried to assist is to engage consultants to come up with a cost for undertaking a detailed survey and a design of a potential solution. But when officers went out to tender for that work, none of the specialist contractors that we'd warmed up for it were prepared to put a price in, and we suspect that is because of the potential technical complexities of doing that. So no company's been prepared to provide a cost for doing that. So we've tried to be as helpful as we can in trying to support stakeholders to find a potential way forward, because key stakeholders are the parish council, who are the owner of the land, and the business owner for Wylam Nurseries, who also owns property, residential property on that land that's slipping away. But given the complex nature, we've not been able to do that. And I think it's worth highlighting that the regression of the bank side is continuing and really has accelerated in the last year or 18 months. And it is highly likely that that business and that residential property at some point will be at risk, and the access road to that business and all those properties will disappear. So it does really threaten the long-term viability of that business and the home. So even though we couldn't get any private contractors to design or to give us a price even for undertaking a design for a solution, we did ask the council's in-house technical services design team, and they've advised us that before any design work could be undertaken, they would need to undertake comprehensive ground investigation activity, looking at all of the sort of issues around geology, hydrology, drainage, and you know, to properly understand what the land movement is all about before a viable scheme could be designed and developed. Because of the scope of those ground investigation works and the significant constraints on site, it's considered that would be a very, very expensive activity, so that they reckon that it would cost in the order of around £70,000 just to do the survey work and to come up with a detailed design for a potential solution. And then, although they don't know what that solution would then cost, because they'd need to do that first, their sort of professional estimate is that it would be at least £500,000 for whatever the solution was. And it could be significantly more expensive than that, given the sort of ecological and physical constraints of that site. So the other consideration is that would also then lead on to some ongoing maintenance and liability for whoever did design and provide that solution, if somebody indeed did. So in determining the council's response to this particular issue, it's really important to note that this isn't an isolated incident. It's probably the worst one in the county at the moment, but there are other public rights of way which are affected in a similar way in terms of landslip or erosion, that are all on private land. So there's another 11 locations across the county, so whatever decision the council makes in respect of this slip would potentially set a precedent for how we approached the other 11 that we know of, and there will be more than those 11 obviously. So designing a solution will definitely cost several tens of thousands of pounds. Delivering a solution would cost several hundreds of thousands of pounds, and then there would be further potential liabilities for similar schemes for this and for other private land issues across the county. So that's why the report is recommending that the committee note and support the approach that officers have taken to date in responding to the matter and trying their best to help. But also note that the county council is not the landowner, and therefore the county council doesn't have any legal or financial responsibility for the land. Taking any of that responsibility for this private land would set precedents, I feel, for how the council responded to other issues elsewhere in the county, which would, you know, present significant long-term financial liabilities for the council. So although we, you know, very much feel for the resident and the business owner, and for all of the members of the public who use that very popular public right-of-way. We don't feel it would be a good use of county council money to try and find a solution for something that isn't fundamentally our responsibility. So that's the recommendation of the report, Chair.
Thank you very much, Greg. I haven't given you any warning. This is in your area, Councillor Woodell, isn't it? I don't know whether you want to say anything about this. I mean, I've dropped this on you a little bit quick, but
I hadn't prepared anything, but I just do have a couple of questions about it, if that's okay. So, as you know, like, I've met with the parish councils and the resident and yourself a couple of times about this already. The resident has kind of repeatedly brought up a temporary fix, which was a little bit cheaper than the sort of £500,000 that's been quoted in here. But I didn't see any mention to temporary fixes, or if that was a viable option. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, the report doesn't speak to that because when the business owner and resident suggested that he was going to engage a builder contractor to see if they could identify a temporary solution for his roadway, if you like, that's eroding. What we formally can't help him in that process because of the reasons outlined in this report, but we did offer the business owner the opportunity to share with us the report that he got and the quote that he got, so that we could just give him some very informal, off-the-record advice for our technical people to let him know whether he was being advised properly or not. But that isn't something that the county council would be involved in.
thanks, Greg. Do you want any more, Holly? Does anybody else want to make a comment? Councillor Morford and then Councillor Oliver after that.
Thank you. I don't like the idea of fighting nature, but I do really want to save that business. I grew up in Wylam, and I remember Tom and Joe's nursery, and I had mates who worked there. And I'd like to explore the possibilities of doing what we can to help. Are you able to outline what the future holds for the business and the house if nothing is done?
Not with any certainty, but it's highly likely that, and I couldn't tell you what the period of time is, but in a period of years, the access to those properties will be lost, and then I suppose eventually the properties themselves, if the slip continues as it has been for years and years and years, eventually they will be lost. So it's a question then of whether or not the county council want to invest a significant amount of money to support one business, and what the rationale would be for doing that.
We're not aware that the business could move back or somehow adapt to the changing situation.
Yeah, the access road and where it is, it's the access road that's the pinch point, and that's too tight to consider that. It's really horrible. It's a horrible situation for that business owner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver?
Yes, it's obviously potentially tragic for the business, but I think in terms of the general public using that footway, it does run parallel to the wagonway, doesn't it? So, that's not a catastrophe. If people can still get along and use the wagonway and then drop back down to the riverside further on.
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor Oliver. I think we outline in the report what the distance is. I think it's 700 metres or something. It's a very, very short pedestrian diversion onto the wagonway, which is an excellent public right-of-way. Yeah.
Councillor Riddle?
Yeah, well, obviously as portfolio member, I have been fully briefed on this by officers, before this report came here. And, of course, we'd like to be sympathetic to the business. The reality is that there is an alternative viable right of way, and as far as the private business is concerned, really, we can't be putting public money into that. Although we would like to support businesses, it's up to a business to take out their own insurance for things like subsidence and landslips, etc. So I'm sorry, but I support exactly what's in this paper.
Anyone else? Councillor Horncastle?
Well, I would is at all. It's not our legal or financial responsibility, and we're looking at about a dozen at the moment on private land. That number's only going to ever increase. And if we were to support this, it would mean in a very short space of time that the council will be having to cut services all over the place on things it is responsible for.
We'll come to that in a minute. Just a second, just see if anybody else wants to speak on it first. No, well, what we have here is just two recommendations to note. We're not actually voting on anything. We're just noting what's been recommended. I'll read them out in full. The first recommendation is to note and support the approach taken to date in response to the matter, which has been clearly stated there by the officer, Greg Gavin, at the bottom of the row tables here. And also B, to note that the County Council is not the landowner and therefore has no legal or financial responsibilities for the land, and that taking any responsibilities for this private land would set precedents for how the council responds to other similar land stability issues elsewhere in the county, which would create significant and long-term financial liabilities for the council, which I think is basically what a few people have already said here. So, are we happy to note both of these recommendations? Noted. Everybody happy? Yeah, thank you. Is that okay, Nicola? Yeah. Right. Find out where I was at. Okay. Well, we got another. Receive any updates on petitions for which a report was previously considered? I'm not aware of any updates. Is that right, Nicola?
None, Chair.
Thank you very much. In that case, we'll move to item 6, which is local services issues. So we'll start first with David Hunt. David.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to update members on what's been going on in neighbourhood services over the last couple of months and what we've got ahead of us. We've now completed the grass cutting across the Tynedale area. We haven't got a definitive date where we cut that off generally. We'll just keep cutting until the surfaces become too wet and we're ending up damaging them with our machinery. And we've reached that point now. So we've completed those operations. A few challenging periods throughout this year. Pretty perfect growing conditions in the middle of the summer, but I think we've kept reasonably well on top of the grass cutting. And we have finished the season on the correct number of cuts, the specified number. So we're back now on our winter maintenance work, cutting back shrubs, hedges, etc. So on the street cleansing side, I suppose our immediate priority this week is attending the War Memorial locations for Remembrance Sunday. So we're doing work around those areas to make them as clean and tidy as possible for Sunday's services. After that, the priority really from now until Christmas probably, and possibly just after, is leaf clearance. So we've got our list of leaf hotspots and we're working through them and doing our best to respond to areas reported to us as well. So any areas that members are aware of that they feel we need to attend to, there'll not be ones we're unaware of. It's just that we're juggling a resource across a wide area. So. But yeah, we'll try and get there as soon as we can. Just a update on fly tips, as we've just passed the half-year point from April to October. So the number of fly tips in the Tynedale area has fallen from 97 to 68. So that's good news. Less fly tips than in the same period in the last financial year. So from April to October 2020, we've had a fall there. And we're still operating with well over 90% of those removed within the 3 working day target. Our staff from grounds and street cleansing, I know Andy's going to be speaking about winter maintenance, and clearly highways run that and have it's a huge part of what they do at winter, but we do support in some small ways with some of our staff being on Andy's gritting rota, and then other staff as well assisting where necessary with the gritting of footpaths in towns and what have you. So on the waste services side, we've had a few properties missed here and there over the last few months. That's generally been because of access problems that we've encountered. We've either had roadworks or just at the end of last week, just couldn't get down one of the back lanes at the west end of Hexham because of parked cars. Generally, we get back the next day and get those places picked up. But other than that, those services are running well. The garden waste collections will be coming to an end. I think there's 4 weeks of that service left now, so 2 collections for anybody involved. After this, it's 3 weeks. So early December we'll be standing that service down. We've exceeded the target for garden waste income this year, and also the income from bulk collections remains well above target, because I think we seem to be seeing the continuing impact of people spending more time at home. That does seem to be a factor. And we're doing the annual review of the garden waste collection rounds as well, just as we have increased housing growth and more people taking up the service, just looking at the capacity we've got to provide that service. On waste as well, the curbside glass recycling scheme trial has been extended by a further 12 months. That'll help us gather some more data on volumes collected, the service efficiency and participation rates. We've added a small number of properties as well, just to improve the data that we're analysing, and just as we've identified that there's a bit of capacity there on the day that we're doing that, to just provide that service to some more properties. So yeah, that's mentioned that about the remembrance. Oh yeah, and just some good news on Green Flag. Northumberland County Council achieved 11 Green Flag awards for our parks this year, and the parks in the Tynedale area were the Hexham Park and Eastwood Park in Prudhoe, which both retained their Green Flag status. And that's me.
Thank you very much, David. I've got a couple of questions myself. Well, actually, I've only got one now, because I think you've... I was just going to ask if you want to expand the extended glass collection, but you just answered that in your last couple of sentences, so I'll ignore that one. Weeds, is that all done and dusted? There's a few flourishing at the minute. It's always a difficult one, that, you know, when do you put your second one in, when do you put your first one in?
It is pretty much done, and but that's not to say that if there's not some areas where, you know, there will have been a bit of regrowth. It's been pretty mild, so we'll probably had some growth quite late in the season compared to what we'd normally have. So again, if there are some areas of concern with that, let us know.
Yeah, we'll just pass them on to you, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, so you said that, I will pass something on with the garden waste collection services, because literally about 5 minutes before I left the house to come here today, I had an email saying that someone had been missed yesterday in the Priestness estate. I don't know whether you knew about that. But then there was another 5 or 6 saying theirs were picked up. So if you could just have a look in, just in case I missed a few houses. That's just a personal one, that. Thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, David. Just a couple of questions, really. You said the words the garden waste income had been exceeded. Could you just explain what actually that means?
Well, we've got an income target based on a number of customers taking up that service, and demand for that service has been very high. So we've had a bit more than expected income as a result of that.
So can we expect that charge to go down next year then? Is that likely?
It's not my decision, but I don't think that that's the case, no.
I know, I just wanted to capture that, but thank you very much. I'll take that to the budget. The next item, you mentioned the glass curbs, the curbside recycling, the glass, etc. We're still in a pilot, which seems to, like, when are we going to get to finalise a pilot and actually go into full running? Because it seems to be going on for a little while now, the pilot.
I can answer that.
Yep, right.
I'll answer that one for you, Derek.
Thank you, sir.
The pilot is going to continue at the moment with the same number of the 4 areas. We are going to purchase some extra bins. I think we can capacity for an extra 800 properties. It's been a huge success. It's been, very well liked, etc. But this is actually increasing it at a very modest cost at the moment and actually making our figures more robust. There's a bill going through Parliament at the moment which will probably compel councils to collect various types of waste, and probably including food waste. But they have said that it will not be an extra burden for councils. They are going to allegedly give us the money for that. As soon as we have that, we will be going to roll the glass recycling one out across the county. But we have the figures to know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We don't have those to know what we're doing with food waste at the moment. And one of the proposals in the budget that I've got is a trial for food waste as well. But we haven't got there yet.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Riddle.
Thank you.
Councillor Dale.
Can I just ask about the carbon footprint? Because we're all going through, the cost of actually collecting. I know we've got big wagons that do the glass collection, and I think probably if it was in the town, Morpeth or Hexham or somewhere like that. However, you're going actually right outside into the country side. And I remember did the costings where we bought the wheelie bins in, and the cost of all that, and how you can collect glass very quickly down the street in Blythe, street in Stocksfield or something like that. But actually when you go into the rural areas, the cost is quite expensive. But also it obviously will have a big carbon footprint. So I don't know if I presume, Nick will know this, you'll be asking the same question about actually what is the carbon footprint on actually collecting glass, and what's the ratio of actually the whole thing. But I'm not going to answer that because I haven't a clue. But Nick might be able to, I don't know. Or do you know how to do it?
Yeah, I'll answer that if that's okay. We're doing some work with the climate change team at the county at the moment to baseline the waste services carbon footprint.
Yeah.
So that's work that's in progress. I think the important thing to realise with the glass waste collections and the food waste collections is that it's highly likely that the bill that's going through Parliament, the Councillor Riddle outlined, will make both of those services a statutory service. So almost irrespective of the carbon footprint, we will be obliged to provide those services. So understanding what that carbon footprint is, I think you're absolutely right, so that we can do everything we can to minimise that. And one of the benefits of doing these trials in advance of being mandated to deliver the services is we will have a really robust set of data around which we can design some very efficient routes, so we can be as efficient as we possibly can and keep that mileage down.
Can I just ask, would you consider doing big drop banks at the end of the street or something like that?
The mandate from government will be individual household collections, we suspect. So will very, very likely be for food waste for every household in the county, in the country. Would be very, very likely that it will be glass collection, and there's still some question mark over the garden waste service and whether they're going to make that mandatory, a mandatory service or a statutory service as well. That's not finalised yet, I don't think.
It's expensive.
Very, very expensive.
Yeah, and also carbon print will be...
Yeah, which is the really important reason for doing the trials at this stage, but not burdening Northumberland council taxpayers with the cost of introducing that new service and waiting until the new burdens funding is available, like what was outlined before.
So is it likely the government, as they usually do, will give us the funding for 2 years and then say over to you?
The indications at the moment are that the funding will cover the additional costs of collecting these materials. There's no commitment yet on the cost of treating the material or disposing of it, but they've made a commitment that they will cover the costs of collection. Now, as government usually do, that's likely to be on a formula basis, so our costs in a rural county may exceed that, but that's why getting all of this modelling work done and all of these trials is really important.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you very much. What you might not realise is that there's having a few problems with the reception of these speakers today, which is why most people are sitting up this end by using that little device over there. So could I just ask, especially if you're sitting at that end of the room, if you could lean into your microphone when you speak, because it's not your fault, it's the system at the moment, because us up here aren't hearing a great deal. But thanks very much for that. Councillor Riddle, did you want to have a word on that?
Yeah, just to highlight what Greg Gavin was saying there, that, you know, the trial that we're doing at the moment is giving us very robust data on what it costs us to collect it, how much glass we're collecting, etc. We need that data, and we need it also, in my opinion, for food waste, in order to go back to government and say, look, that's not enough money, or, you know, to really to have something that we can not just say we want more, but to prove why we need more. And the other thing about carbon footprint is, you know, yes, there is a carbon footprint, but it's also a lot of carbon saved with the recycling of glass. You know, it's high quality glass, and they can now segregate with equipment. They now can actually separate the clear glass from the coloured glass. So it is much more valuable. And I think Greg, I think I'm right in saying it was 260 or 280 tonnes of glass. I think that was the figure. So that's quite a lot of glass to not have to be sort of born from nothing.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to make a comment? Councillor Woodall.
Just on the garden waste collections, so as they were very well subscribed to this year, what's the chances of them getting extended to the sort of more rural areas next year? And obviously I'm thinking Biowell Village.
Not really any chance. It's absolutely at capacity. That, I mean, we are looking at increased capacity, which would involve an extra resource, probably based away from Hexham, but that could possibly work into the Tynedale area and then free up our ability to deliver to some of the smaller settlements that we aren't currently delivering to. But as the resource stands at the moment, it'll pretty much have to remain the areas that we're currently servicing. So.
Thank you very much, David. Anyone else? Councillor Morfitt.
Thank you. Just a few simple questions. Did you say the curbside glass collection trial was going to be extended to the end of March 2023? Yes. Yeah, thank you. And sorry, I'm not sure if I quite followed. Is the government likely to mandate garden waste collection as well as food waste collection?
That's a question mark. So within all of the consultation documents that came out, the government indicated very strongly that separate food waste collections, separate glass collections at the curbside would be mandated. But the questions that they asked around garden waste were more nuanced, so you could end up with anything from the existing situation where it's a non-statutory service to it is a statutory service, but you can still levy a charge for it, or it's a statutory service and it must be free. So there are a range of options that they're clearly considering.
Thank you. My final question was, I think you've been doing a chemical-free weed control trial, and I think we're expecting a report on that sometime in the autumn. Are you able to tell us when we'll be getting the report?
Yeah, we don't have a timescale. It's not on the forward plan yet, but we'll put it on the forward plan as soon as we can. We're just working through the data at the moment.
Right, thank you very much, people, and thank you very much, David, as always. We're now going to go to Andy Olive, who I think, is also going to incorporate item 9, which is the winter services preparedness and resilience, along with his already busting report.
Thank you, Chair. Just a brief overview from the highways delivery side of things in Tynedale. I'll start off with the reactive maintenance. Our highway inspections are being carried out as per statutory duty in the area. I'm pleased to say they're all up to date still within the Tynedale area. And maintenance teams on the ground repairing any actionable defects picked up by the highway inspectors. I'm pleased to say that the number of defects have decreased over the last 2 or 3 months, either being picked up by the highway inspector or reports coming in to us from the members of the public. Gully wagon is still out working around the routes and picking up any CRM complaints which come into the area office, either by Western Area Highway or through the contact centre, working around that as fast as we can. We still have a dedicated drainage gang ongoing within the area, with renewing gully pots, cross drains, ditching, and any known problem areas, but also areas picked up by the highway inspectors. Just a couple of the last ones, locations what we've rectified. Orchard Close in Hexham, Paddock Close in Prudder, Cutton Main Road, Sleggiford Main Road, and that's just to name a few. We've not quite a lot off our ever-growing list over this last year, which is making a big difference. Also mentioning there about the ditching. We've been carrying out ditching work within the Tynedale area now for a good 12-month constantly. And we've done approximately 110 miles of ditching throughout the whole of our area. So if you were driving that, to put in perspective, it's from driving a car from Carlisle to Preston nearly. So we've made a big difference. We've still got a lot to do, but like British Rail, we're getting there. Local transport plan, what's been completed. This may have been touched in the past, but it is run from the Tynedale area. The surface dressing programme has successfully been completed again throughout the whole of Northumberland. We've completed 33 locations, and a coverage of an outwork has been roughly 450,000 square metres, which is 72 kilometres of road. Highway Investment Programme, LTP surfacing works. Within Tynedale, we've got 20 LTP schemes, highway investment schemes, which includes the extra funding. And to date, we have completed 22 of these. And again, just to mention a couple we've done over the last few weeks: Charlton to the Ryden, Lanehead to Greenhoff, the junction A695 to Corbridge Roundabout. And we're just waiting on the last few now to be issued to us, and we'll get them programmed in. And I don't envisage any problems at all with delivering these. So in total for the financial year in the Tynedale area, we've completed an area of 94,578 square metres of permanent surfacing works to date, and just under 10,000 tonnes of tar. So that's equivalent to 13 Wembley football pitches, just to put in context. Not just also that, refurbished funds which come to the area. We've been doing permanent repairs again around house and estates, but also carrying out permanent footwear, permanent repairs, slurry sealing, which we carry out predominantly in the summer months where the material can go off. And we've been working in Holtwhistle, Corbridge, Barden Mill, Otterburn on the front street. And it's just going to be an ongoing process year to year in phases. Member schemes still ongoing. They're coming to us fast and thick and fast now. They're all getting programmed in. Over the last few weeks, we've completed Castlefields Drive in Prudder, Wall Village Green, Wickley First School, Cottier Grange, and the ones we've just programmed in recently for the coming weeks is Warden to Four Stones, hopefully the end of November, beginning of December. Ryden Mill pedestrian crossing scheduled in for the 22nd of this month. Newbrough First School, I'm looking at scheduling that in for early December. Again, it's all going to be weather dependent with winter service starting. I'll touch now on the winter service update. You will all receive a copy of this if you haven't already received a copy. But the key issues for me is that us as Northumberland County Council undertakes its winter service activities to ensure, as far as is reasonably practical, that the highways maintain to a safe condition in accordance with the legal obligations under the Highways Act 1980. There have been no changes to the service standards of winter maintenance policy since last winter. The Council is still treating the same lengths of road within the same agreed timeframes, and meeting all the council's agreed policies for winter service. Our arrangements for dealing with snowfall and prolonged periods of extreme cold weather also remain unchanged. The delivery of the winter service overall requires 105 staff throughout Northumberland, including managers, supervisors, drivers and operatives. Staff and rotas are now in place to ensure staff and resources are available on a 3-shift rota, and the season has started from the 1st November and runs until approximately April time. Arrangements have been made to ensure operations are COVID-19 compliant, not just with winter service, but through the whole staff within Tynedale, with revised risk assessments, operational procedures. Managers and supervisors will conduct winter service activities remotely using the web-based software systems, what we have available to use. Also, during the summer gone, we've been setting up and now completing the testing of the new IT system and vehicle hardware for specialist winter maintenance route management, with automated salt spreading technology across all the council's fleet. This will provide a system that allows enhanced vehicle tracking, route management, automated navigation, automated gritting, and will improve the data and collection and recording of all this. This will vastly improve the operations as we're able to deploy any driver with any gritter to any route across the whole of Northumberland with just a press of a button. For example, if, as we all know, Allendale, the first place to get hit with snow, if we need to have 2 gritters deployed up within the Allendale area, we can call, if required, a gritter from Blythe, the case of driving over here, a press of a button, and he'll be able to follow another route within Tynedale. But they're all programmed in through every route in the whole of Northumberland. So it's a good system. The majority of staff involved in winter service come from technical services. As David's touched on, we do use neighbourhood services teams as also. We have 2 winter service delivery managers. Mick Carl, he's the lead on winter service, and myself, who is going to be operating on a week-on, week-off rota, 24/7. And our job is to consider the forecasting information and make a decision on the most appropriate course of action and what, if any, actions required. And we take that off the forecast information provider we use, which is Meteor Group again for this year. Us as winter managers then pass instructions onto the winter service supervisors who manage the gritting operations on the ground. As you can imagine, this role can be very stressful and hectic at times, so please, just asking the members therefore, only contact us directly if there is any emergency situation. Otherwise than that, please go through all non-emergency situations, should be reported through the council contact centre and the out-of-hours arrangements by the Northumberland Fire and Rescue Service in the usual way. Our fleet of 28 gritters are on station now, prepared for the winter ahead, and we've already been out twice this season on the high ground. We have 28 primary gritting routes, 26 secondary routes, and the operation is delivered over 11 depots across Northumberland. At the end of last season, we had 14,000 tonnes of salt in stock left across Northumberland. This is now being replenished and got the full requirement of 44,000 tonnes. This includes our reserve in Powerburn, which holds 6,000 tonnes. Just talking about the Tynedale area alone, all grip bins have now been replenished, and we're on with heaps within the rural areas on the new roads, and these will be ongoing and replenished as necessary throughout the season. The service supports an inventory of over 16,000 grip bins. Each bin has a serial number, hopefully, on them, which gives contact details so members of the public can report a bin when it's required filling during the winter period via the website or the call centre with the number. Whilst the majority of grip bins are yellow, you may notice there are some green bins. These bins have been provided either by the town or parish council, who remain responsible for their upkeep and replenishment, although in practice they normally contact the areas through NCC, who replenish these on a cost. As previous years, we'll be again producing our customer information leaflet that provides information to the public on all aspects of the service. The leaflet, which includes when gritting will take place, on which roads, on which footways. This will be available very soon following a review of the information which it contains. The document will be passed to all county councillors and town parish councillors. I'm not sure if this is going to be by electronic version, but I'll come back to you on that one. And there's also information on the website, includes details of our policies, our maps of the primary routes, along with showing our footwear network, which will be treated in severe conditions such as snow or heavy icing. Once the likes of myself or Mick make a decision, if gritting is required, alerts are sent out daily during the winter using social media, and these will advise people on the weather conditions also and what proposed action will be taken in the county. Additional support with our farmer community again. We've recently reviewed our snow clearing contract with local farmers and subcontractors to assist our operations by removing snow from more remote roads in the rural areas. We are currently issuing pre-start letters to all who's involved. I'm nearly finished. In addition, the office included the snow squads, which will be rolled out again this winter after successfully campaigned. Over the last 2 seasons, we've recruited 24 snow wardens across Northumberland alone, 12 within Tynedale area, 24 throughout Northumberland. The volunteers have been trained, equipped with tools and supplied with salt to assist the council to clear the local footpaths around the county, keeping the county residents safe. We also rely heavily on our colleagues from neighbourhood services to assist with snow clearing and grading of key car parks and footways. And cross-boundary work and arrangements are in place. We've been in touch with Newcastle City, Durham County Council, Cumbria County Council, Scottish Borders, Colas, Highways England to aid each other in periods of heavy snow. And just one last thing with me is just that please be mindful, because the same operational staff who are driving the gritters are the same people who's carrying out the LTP schemes, safety schemes, repairing potholes, driving the gully wagon, but we will get round as fast as possible. Pleased to know that's me.
Thanks very much, Andy. British Rail, eh? Showing your age there.
You cannot tell by the hair.
Anyway, there is in your agenda pack, there is a Winter Services Preparedness and Resilience Report enclosed with that. So we've already got that, Andy. Just a quick question for me before I pass over is, you mentioned that if, say, a parish council want extra grit bins and they don't meet the criteria to get them free gratis, you mentioned that and get one, and I think it's three top-ups a year. What sort of price would we be talking, just in case any parish council is interested in getting their own extra bin?
It's a £500, and I think it's, I'll double check on this, but I think it's £250 for the bin itself, the green bin, which comes through Northumberland County Council. That gives you 2 refills a year.
So you've got a full one and then 2 extras, so you've got 3 lots.
Yes.
Yeah. Then
the following season, if need replenished again, it's 3 fills for £125.
Okay.
And if you pay up front, it's cheaper. Come next year, it might be a bit dearer.
Good bit of salesmanship there. Anybody else? Yeah, go on, Councillor Oliver.
Thanks, Andy. 1997, British Rail finished. Thanks very much. Great update. The gully wagons. I think Paul was at the Communities in Place Scrutiny Committee recently and mentioned that they're all getting upgraded. Is that when's that going to happen? I understand there's going to be extra sort of capacity on those wagons, but we also made a request to ask for extra capacity on top of the extra capacity that the replacement wagons will give. And is that going to get considered this autumn? That might be a question that John answers, but it would just be useful to have an update.
As far as I'm aware, and I believe that the new gully wagons are meant to be here for December this year, which will be a big help. And also there's another area manager from Castle Morpeth who's actually looking to all the background with the extra resource needed, pulling all the information together. So until I get the proper update on that, I just don't want to.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Councillor Riddle, do you want to add to that?
Well, that's my understanding, that we will have them for the end of the year. I believe that there's one extra one. I think we've got 4 instead of 3, and that they'll have jetting capacity as well as suction capacity.
Right, thanks, John.
Thank you. Councillor Dale?
Thank you. Just can I ask you, the A68, I've got all primary routes through my ward, of course, but the A68, just to make so Whiteside Bank, sorry, I've got Whiteside Bank is causing problems. There's water coming off the bank side all the way along down. So could you have a look at it? Because it's quite a serious issue, obviously, when it gets iced over and it's on a very dark area, and it is lethal actually in the winter. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, please. And just to say thank you very much. I do actually find that all my things like the LTP things being put back, because either I've got NWL in or Northern Gas in. There's always somebody working on the A695, and poor people, I just feel so sorry for the officers, because every time, you know, they're put back by 2 weeks. We've got a water leak, so it gets back another week, and it goes on, and I have to explain that to I have to explain that to the residents, and they actually feel sorry for your workload, because how you keep on managing and changing it around. So I have screaming all the time. Everybody's screaming at me all the time. And it's actually the water. You can't do anything about it. But we do understand, but thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone? Councillor Morford?
Thank you. You mentioned that a members' local improvement scheme was going to be starting in Newbrough at the first school in December. Is that the flashing 20-mile-an-hour signs?
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Safety scheme, yes.
Thank you. And you also mentioned a members' local improvement scheme on Wall Village Green. And I'm not sure if I know about that one. So I'd like to know a bit more about that.
I can send you the details through.
Sure.
This will have been pre-approved last year, and it'll just been delivered this year, but I'll send you the information through with that.
Thanks.
No one else? Okay, thank you very much, Andy. A couple of things I'll just finish off with. I remember last year, and my office, well, all right, the small bedroom is on the side of my house, and there's a couple of times I've noticed bins emptied, and I actually phoned up yourself. And there's once I passed the bin. By the time I got in the house, got up the stairs, switched the computer on to go to an online meeting I was going to, the lads were out there topping the bin up. And that happened twice within half an hour, both times, which I thought was exceptional. So I'm a witness to the fact that the lads are out there very quick. That was brilliant. And I think it's just to back you up on the fact that sometimes, we've all been aware that sometimes you go to bed and the next morning it's absolutely freezing. You get a really bad temperature drop in the middle of the night. And I think we have to realise that, you know, these early warning systems, I remember having a conversation with you about this last year, don't necessarily pick it up at the instant that the temperature drops, because they do timed reports to you or something like that. And I think you will, and as the chair of this, for some reason, people ring me up for everybody's area, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. So I was getting calls from Otterburn and all sorts last year. And I think people have to realise that the lads are doing a brilliant job, but there will be the odd occasion, once in a blue moon, where, you know, the report comes through to them just a couple of hours later than it's maybe been to somebody who gets up and goes to work at 4 o'clock in the morning. And so thanks very much for that. Right then, that being that, we will move on to, when I find where I'm up to, we have item 7 we're going to go to now, which is Northumberland's Community Together, which is Maureen, who's been sitting there patiently for a long time.
Unfortunately, the laptop hasn't been as patient, Chair.
Sorry?
Give me 2 minutes.
Oh, all right. She's off, full speed. Right, we'll just have a, see you boys, thank you very much. We'll just have a temporary couple of minutes while we I tell you what, we're going to have an unscheduled comfort break for 5 minutes if anybody wants to pop while this has been sorted out. 5 minutes, we'll be starting it again at 5:10. Back, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to now go back to Maureen Taylor to receive a presentation on the work of the Northumbrian communities together.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the opportunity to come and give you an update on where we're at with Northumberland Communities Together. I have to give apologies for Paul Brooks, who's the head of service. Unfortunately, he's having to isolate at the moment. It's just the situation that we're currently in. So this presentation is to give you a bit of an update on where we're at. Back in March 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, it became very clear that as a council we needed to put together a response mechanism to support our vulnerable residents, which we did, and we quickly named it Northumberland Communities Together. And we've built this service up now. It's an established service within the county. It's a multidisciplinary team, and what we do is we work with community groups and key partners to provide key essential services to the most vulnerable people that we've got in the county. We work with experts in the field, so we don't presume to be the experts in all of this. We've got some very talented community groups in the voluntary sector, and we've tapped into their expertise to provide this kind of support that we offer. We're looking at shared challenges as well. We understand and listen to local communities about what's affecting them, what their pressures are, what are their needs, because we're a huge county, but we're not the same. So we have differences in each part. And Northumberland Communities Together has been built to respond to those issues. So I just want to take you through the principles around what we are working in, and this is the diagram around social determinants of health, and basically this is about health and well-being, and it's a big picture around preventing people from slipping into more vulnerable situations. And we all know through the pandemic that a lot of our residents were faced with some really challenging situations, and that has unpicked a number of issues about how the council responds and how it addresses those challenges with residents and the community. So a lot of what we do is around these social determinants, and it mentions things like access to healthcare. We've supported that, access to housing, support around transport, just actually keeping the residents moving and through this pandemic and beyond, because we're very clear that we've identified need and we have identified vulnerability in our community that we might not have known about before. Now we know, now we need to do something about that where we can. Something that's really clear at the moment is that there's a category which is called hunger. We call it food insecurity, but also what's really building in the community now, and we all know about it, is fuel insecurity and people who are concerned and worried about inflation around fuel costs and the cost of living generally. So we are seeing a number of more vulnerable families who had been coping before are now worried about how they're going to cope in future. So we are ramping up to be able to support them. So this is all about that preventative element to try to stop people or catch them as they're identifying themselves as becoming more vulnerable than maybe they'd been before. Now, we don't do this in an ad hoc way. We've created a team. This is a bit of an output of the structure. It's basically in two halves. So the team look after frontline delivery. So we have a team that is the locality coordinators who work with local community groups to understand what they're able to do, what they can offer. Our support planners are the individuals who work directly one-on-one with residents in difficulty, helping to signpost them to available benefits, to available support mechanisms, to actually help them to access services in terms of access to employment, access to education if they're having difficulties with that. So these support plans have been really key through the pandemic. The expansion of this has led to collaborations with Northumbria Police. So Northumbria Police approached communities together around what we could do to support violence reduction, because there's been an increase in violent and domestic abuse through the pandemic. So we have a co-located worker from Northumbria Police. So this gives you an idea of how that's now expanding into broader support for vulnerable people. We have workers who are now fully engaged. They were brought in as COVID support champions. We've kind of broadened that a little bit, and they're now community support champions to work in local communities, to kind of gather intelligence and information and work out what people are really struggling with and how we can network that. They're doing a tremendous job at the moment. They're giving really strong and good, solid and reliable information about COVID, but also about what the council can do in terms of all of its services. So that green side is the kind of front of house delivery piece. On the right-hand side is the project team who are supporting development of projects. We were successful last year in our in the award from the North of Tyne Combined Authority to create community hubs, which are this idea of facilities in the community where people and community groups can come together and support people to improve their independence and give them those mechanisms that help them address their own needs. So this is less kind of prescriptive by the council and more about co-design with the community about what they need. We've been successful with that. We think we're likely to be successful again in a second round. So we have a team who are working to put those community hubs together, and we have a bit of a blueprint at the moment. Some of you may have visited or may have heard about the Cramlington Community Hub. That's the flagship. The reason that was started there is because the council had quite a really good building going to waste, in my opinion. It was ideal to create a community venue, so we operate community support groups from there, and we co-locate the library. We have lots of activity in there around registrations, activities in there as well, and it's really been embraced by the community, and we want to make sure that we can do this in all of our localities. And it's a really important piece of work. In terms of responding, the Response Hub, and people will talk about Response Hub, is how do you get into Northumberland communities together? Well, there's been a lot of literature, and you will find in your inboxes and in your post more information coming through to allow you to have access to the number for any of your vulnerable residents who need to get support. The Communities Together team respond by phone call, by email. The mechanisms have been set up since last year, and they're really robust. It's available 9 till 6, 7 days a week, and we have tapped into one call system for emergencies at a weekend. So be reassured that there's a system for you to get into on behalf of your residents, and your residents can get directly in, under their own steam as well. So the Response Hub, they interact on a one-to-one basis with any of the residents who have difficulty, and it's across all ages. So it includes children, families, older people. There's no discrimination around who can get into that support system. The other part of the delivery, frontline delivery, and some of you will know about this, is the work that's done on community pop-ups. So in the height of the pandemic, when as a council, we were worried about what's going on with these vulnerable families, particularly what's going on with some of these vulnerable kids. Social workers weren't able to eyeball these families very easily. We weren't able to kind of reach out to communities in a face-to-face way. So we created the model of pop-ups, where we went into community estates, into parks, created some noise. We made a bit of noise and activity, and we started to talk about health and well-being, and are you COVID safe? Do you need any advice? And that then has spun up into requests from communities for us to go back and continue that kind of engagement, and that's been really successful. And it's branched out into some community groups actually running that for themselves now. So they've said, you've given us great steer, we know how to do it, we're fine, we're going to do it ourselves. And that's exactly the model that I want to create through Northumberland Communities Together, to kind of empower them to be able to do that for themselves. So the delivery team are really proactive on that enrichment and that engagement. In terms of the community hub developments, we've got a scattering of evolving discussions going on across the county. Now, there are discussions going on in your local area. This isn't about the council building new facilities or, repurposing our own facilities. It's about engaging with local communities and saying, what would be a natural hub location for you, and what would work in your community? What is it that you would benefit from, rather than us kind of going in and saying you're going to have one and it's going to look like this. So that work is evolving now, and our locality coordinators and Paul Brooks, who heads up the service, is in contact with a number of people about what would the Tynedale model look like particularly. And again, co-location of some of our council services in there in terms of libraries is important, because that is kind of one of the hooks that has been in place through COVID to support people around, you know, their need to access libraries, reducing isolation, improving people's mental well-being. You know, all of those issues are really important. So there are conversations ongoing for your locality, and in coming weeks and months you will see how that develops, and more than happy to take feedback from you on your ideas on that too. This is a bit of a busy slide. Basically, this talks about a snapshot of progress through Communities Together. Now, if you remember back in the middle of the pandemic, and when you were on members' briefings, we were handling over 25,000 clinically extremely vulnerable residents. That's what we had in the community. And the team made over 18,000 direct contacts with residents over that very, very peak time. 2,000 welfare visits, that's knocking on doors, because we couldn't get to them by phone, we couldn't get a response from them. The team went out and they door knocked to make sure that these residents were okay, and was there anything that the council could do, any support that they needed. So being very, very proactive and external facing. There was a huge output in terms of over 7,000 emergency food parcels were delivered at that key time. I mean, it gives me the shivers sometimes when I think about what we actually went through all those months ago. We kind of, you know, blank it out, don't we? Nearly 3,000 pieces of PPE went out. I mean, it was a big machine about just getting people over the hump. And 3,000 welfare parcels. And by welfare parcels, that's beyond food. That's packages of books or whatever the kids needed to kind of keep them safe and occupied. We had some funds to help us do that, just in case you're wondering where all the money came from. There's been a number of grants that have come through from government. You know, most of those, the emergency of food assistance. We then had the COVID Winter Support Fund that came through. We had the COVID Local Support Grant. So they changed their name as the progression of the pandemic went on. The Holiday Activity and Food Programme, which was a little bit controversial last year about whether, you know, the free school meal programme was going to happen. We've had major success with that in our county. Great engagement from local food providers, from schools. Everybody's embraced the need to support children and families, and it's been universal. So it hasn't just been about those children who've been on free school meals. Those doors have been opened to support vulnerable families and families who want to engage. And we've had some good successes with those with SEND needs as well, where activities have been made available and universal for those children and families as well. The latest version of the grant funding is the Household Support Grant. And there's a note come out to you all, or you should have it in the next couple of days, around that money. It's 2.4 million coming through. We have it retrospectively. It's paid in arrears to the council. That runs until the 31st of March next year. So that's a really good help in terms of supporting families. It's for families and older people. It allows us to provide any bespoke support. It allows us to provide vouchers for fuel if people are struggling with the cost of fuel, if people are struggling with winter supplies, and I'm talking winter coats for children, you know, warm boots or shoes for children. That is permissible, and we have the discretion to be able to do that. So just want to give you that reassurance that we will work as flexibly as we can to make sure that we, you know, managing that fund within the rules, obviously. But the Communities Together team will be coordinating that. They've got great experience since last year of doing that, and we're really proud of the partnerships that have been developed. So we don't all do this. We support community groups and the voluntary sector organisations to do it in their localities on the council's behalf. We've had a lot of success as well with community enrichment. This is the pop-up activity, the funds we've been able to draw down from North of Tyne, as I've already mentioned. You know, we had 11,000 children through the Holiday Activity and Food Programme, which is great numbers. You know, we had we thought outside the box and we provided summer holiday activities that was based on vouchers to allow families to go and enjoy an activity rather than saying you can only come if you can prove you're on free school meals and you can't interact with anybody and you're stigmatised. We kind of took all of that out. We've had some fantastic feedback, and I'm pleased to say that just this week the national team are very interested in our model. We've been chosen among 5 in the country to start developing future plans around that, which is a good position to be in. And alongside this, we've managed to bring 12 learning placements into reality. So we're actually training people into employment through this kind of community engagement work. So trying to add to that employment base as well. So we're trying to do a little bit of everything. I've got a couple of case studies, Chair, if you're okay for time. If everybody's okay with it, only take a minute or two. This case study is a young girl. The hub it happened in Cramlington. The hub in Cramlington. The staff came into work one day. Outside the hub in Cramlington, there's a young girl on a park bench who's obviously slept there all night, cold to the bone, basically. The team identified this person, this young girl, brought her in. She'd been sleeping rough. She had a job in the local, I think it's the B&M shop, the local shop in Manor Walk. She had a job there. She was waiting to go into work. She looked really shabby. The team brought her in, got her freshened up, tried to understand her circumstances. She'd been in a pretty toxic personal relationship. She had a black eye, actually, but was really desperate to hang on to her job. The team, by the time they sent her to work, to start work at 8:30, by the time that girl finished work, the team had accessed the homeless team, got her a place to stay that evening, provided the white goods that she needed, a food parcel, a heating voucher to make sure the place was warm. They got her a phone to make sure that she could do her online banking to distract herself or take herself away from that toxic relationship. And she didn't miss a heartbeat in terms of her employment. To be fair, that young girl was heading to lose her job, being homeless, getting herself into some very risky situations potentially, and the team managed to stop that in its tracks. I'm really pleased to say that young lady has come back and she's asked to volunteer with the team in the hub. I mean, for me, that's a fantastic result. It's just by accessing those services in the council that are readily available, but making it happen quickly. This is all about prevention and stopping things from deteriorating. So it's not really, our real name's not Bethany. Second one, very quickly, this is an older lady. We were asked to ask for support by a local councillor. This lady lives in a property completely overrun. You can make out the very green picture, the before and after pictures. The house was really overgrown, massive discord with the local community and with our neighbours. This lady had a disability. She was due to go into hospital for an operation. She wasn't managing. She was at risk of losing her tenancy. And NCT, the team, they managed to mobilise local support. They came in, they basically cleared her garden, got everything back under control. The lady went into hospital. While she was in hospital, the team got things sorted for her in terms of her return. Otherwise, she could have ended up in residential care at a high cost, lost her independence from living at home. She had support ready for her on her discharge to make sure she had food, shopping, all the usual things. And actually, the local community have now acknowledged that that lady was in difficulty. She wasn't the problem. That she was having difficulty, which were creating problems for them. And that has created a bit more community cohesion. I just spoke to the local councillor yesterday and she said that's been maintained. So that lady's been prevented from going into long-term care. I'm absolutely sure of that. So they're just a couple of examples where if we act early and we get in front of the problem, we've got services in the council that are there to sort this, and NCT are kind of making that, joining that up and making it happen. So what's coming next? Well, we've got winter around the corner. I've just mentioned the 2.4 million household support grant, and we're doing a lot of publicity about keeping warm over winter. We know that there are increased deaths due to the cold weather, and we are working hard to put mechanisms in place to make sure everybody's aware of what they're entitled to get. So the grant will come in. We can still support people who are having to self-isolate, and if they're in any financial hardship because they can't go to work, there are grants and funds that can support them. We just need to educate people and get them tracked, into the right track. The holiday activities and food programme will run over the Christmas holidays. It'll run at Easter. We've got toy and family gift grants, and they're available with some of our trusted partners to make sure vulnerable families are not struggling over the Christmas period with presents for their children. Pushing the warm home discount, the money that's available to make sure people can get the rebates on their energy bills. We're going hard on that, and the cold weather payment. We're also promoting the Green Homes grant. So if we have residents who are having difficulty and they're saying, I can't afford my heating bills, I can't eat because I can't pay the heating bill. We talk them through the availability of grants, we get them access to that grant, but we're having conversations with them about, let's talk about your property. Do you know that you can get a Green Homes grant? Do you know you can get some support to keep your house warm? So it's about going that extra mile with them, and not saying you've only asked for this, so you're going to get this. It's about taking that conversation forward. And there's, other things that are coming forward about, providing vouchers to make sure young families can get, the milk, the vitamins, all of the list of things that are freely accessible if you know how to access them. And then one that's been very quiet and under the radar that I want to pull through a bit more is about eligible working people who can get, up to £5,000 for the child support for childcare, for free childcare, to keep people aware of that. So that's the bundle. I think it's safe to say that we're not going away. We're well embedded in the council now. This is a service that is, in my view, well structured. We're focused. We know what we're about and where we're going. We're incredibly grateful to the community groups who have embraced this type of work. We are reaching as many as we can. We have, good relationships, and we are building on those. I would like to say, if you can help us connect even further, that would be magical, because we don't know of every single little pop-up group, but everyone's really important. One of the reasons that we were successful with the North of Tyne bid about community hubs is that we've got this concept that, we're not like Newcastle or North Tyneside. We can't have one centre. We've got to be creative, and what got us kind of extra marks, I suppose, was that we're going to have a digital network of community hubs. And by that, I mean, if there's a fantastic activity happening in Cramlington, but you're living in the middle of, back end of Stocksfield, or, you're right on the border with Cumbria, and you can't get to that event, you shouldn't be disadvantaged. So we're going to live stream. We're going to make sure people can access things that are happening across the county. And that piece of work, I think, will be groundbreaking for us to get people connected into activities that are happening. They don't have to be restricted by the place that they live. We're going to open that up. The team, we have a team, a point of contact for each locality, for your area. It's Richard Christensen. He works into that green side of the structure, but the whole team work and interact with one another. The key thing is, if you need any assistance, if your residents need any assistance, bring communities together. We will get you or your resident to the right place. And there's one number. And that's me. Happy to take any questions. Don't make them hard, because obviously the team are here.
Thanks very much, Maureen. That was very good. And it's interesting, or will be interesting, to see how the community hubs develop going forward. Obviously, I think most people realise that we sort of got to see a lot of this starting off when the pandemic was in its height, and we had an original name called Hexham Community Togethers. I mean, how original is that? But there was Acom, and I'm sure everybody had things set up in their old villages, so that was fantastic the way people came together volunteers and things like that. These slides, will they be available to members?
Yes, Nicola has them.
That was what I was going to say, Chair. We will get those circulated tomorrow with the contact details.
Fantastic. And obviously I've got the little note you sent out a few days ago with some of the some of the information. I'm sure this went to all members, so you should all have this. So that was very interesting as well. And you're right in what you say. Prevention is better than cure, without a shadow of doubt. I'll open it to members. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mo, for the very interesting presentation there. That's what a council should do, and I'm proud to say this council's leading it nationally. Clearly, you've identified that's what's been seen there. Fantastic support from the government as well, and it's been fed through from various sources and going via the north of Tyne as well. Very challenging and changing times, and throughout the pandemic, I've been in communication your officers throughout that, and they have stepped up the mark. And if it be a bit parochial here as well, they work exceptionally well within the product area, networking with lots of volunteer organisations and the town council and obviously the county councillors. But main thing is toilet rolls. And Essity, the biggest manufacturer in the county, provide a massive amount of toilet rolls, which were nationally acclaimed. So,
That's correct.
well done, Essity.
Well done. Actually, you know, Essity and Benicia, you know, they were fabulous at the beginning of the pandemic. They really supported. So yes, we've had great support from local businesses.
Thank you. So you can have a nationally acclaimed toilet roll, can you?
Internationally, actually.
Internationally acclaimed toilet roll. That's very good. I hope they weren't burnt the other day, but that's another story. Anybody else want to say? Councillor Dale.
Sorry, yes, thank you. Can I just say thank you very much to Maureen for everything, and all the girls and all the boys as well who've been involved in that, because I know how difficult it's been, and from picking up from nothing. And we have got areas of deprivation, we've got areas of hardship, we've got vulnerable people all over the place in the rural areas. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
I can hear.
Sorry, in the rural areas and in the town, so it's across the county, and each have different needs. What I think about this is, I think it's a really massive, wonderful opportunity where you can get into the areas where there are areas of deprivation in particular, and also build up their resilience, because I think that's the main thing, is to build up the resilience in people, because the future is difficult, and it's going to be difficult for a while, and there's all kinds of things people have got problems with. I will say, one of the things you mentioned, homelessness. I've actually got homelessness in my ward, and all I can say is the people in the housing have been brilliant. I've got young girls, I've got people actually a lot of people have broken down relationships over COVID, and it's not going back, and there is a housing need, and we understand that. I think everybody understands that. But bringing all your work you've done together actually is a real opportunity to get this on the table, so we can actually, as a council, benefit from the work you're doing, because actually it'll give us the examples of where there is real need and what the need is. So there is need for housing, there's need for housing in rural areas, there's need for housing in a lot of areas. There's a lot of need for housing for old people, sort of who want to move and downsize. There's all kinds of needs, but also, as I said, to build up the resilience and actually get into the schools and help those kids who are having a difficult life from when they will start it. I mean, you know, from birth upwards, and it's all sort of the Marmot's review and everything else. It's all in there. And Alan Milburn, who's actually lives in Stocksfield, he wrote a great report of levelling up. And now the government's actually talking about levelling up. These are the things we should be getting a grip with, because that's the only way that we're going to manage to level up the areas where there's deprivation, in particular.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else question or anything for Maureen?
So,
Councillor Horncastle.
just to say, Mo, just a big thank you for everything you and your team's done, pulling all that together in such a short space of time. Just thank you very much.
No, you're welcome, and I'll pass that on to the team. I think, do you know something, the team, if they were here, they would say that they have had the time of their life. And by that I mean the fact that they've been able to add value. Some of those staff have come out of jobs, back office jobs, where they didn't really engage with residents, and then they've been enlightened about actually this is what we can do as a council, and I'm really proud that they've done that. And you know, I'm proud that the council has actually allowed this to progress. So it's a reciprocal thank you.
Thank you very much, Maureen. I think Taken has said that we're all very over the moon with the way it's been operating so far.
Is that, if anybody wants to volunteer, taking volunteers every day.
The offer is out there. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
Right, we're just going to move on now to item number 8, which is the youth service provision, and this will be...
Trevor, sorry, before you move on, excuse me, I've got another meeting to go to. Sorry.
That's fine, Councillor Horncastle. Okay, so item 8, youth service provision. We're going to receive a presentation on the youth service within West Northumberland, and that's going to be by Sharon Pearson and Ginny Younger. Oh yeah, just 1 second. I think we're just setting something up here, are we?
Yeah, the presentation.
I'm not sure whether it'll work from this end, but we'll just check.
Which one? Anyway.
We had a bit of difficulty putting the previous presentation on, so we just bear with us for a few seconds.
It's all right. And just before we start even, as Maureen's leaving the room, we are trusted partners of Northumberland Communities Together. Yeah. So we work really, really closely, and we have a direct link, a hotline, shall I call it, to them. So I just think it's fitting that we're on after Communities Together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice to see you, Maureen.
Nothing wrong with having a hotline to anybody.
No, not at all. There we're there. So who's gonna churn it over? Oh.
Right, thank you very much. So who's starting first?
I will. I'm Sharon. Hi.
You're Sharon. Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm Sharon Pearson, and I'm the Senior Manager for Northumberland Adolescent Service, and within the Adolescent Service sits the Youth Service. So what we did think we would do at the beginning of this presentation is give you an overview of the Adolescent Service itself. So I'll just tell you a little bit about all the services that sit in Northumbria House at Cramlington. So we're a county-wide service, and we have many strands to that service provision. It's made up of the youth service, which has 3 strands to that, and then we have sorted the substance misuse service. We have the youth justice service, which has a link to exploitation within it. We've got the 14 and 18 plus teams 1 and 2, the accommodation team, and then the business administration team. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the role and function of each service area. The Youth Justice Service that sits within NAS we deliver services to young people in both in the court arena and out of the court arena. We have measures in place to divert young people from entering into the court arena, for example, divert from court programme and out of court disposal panels. We implement plans to divert young people from offending or reduce re-offending. And we work with young people within the Youth Justice Service from ages 10 to 19. We have the exploitation service within NAS, and that is where an adult takes advantage of a or a group of children or young people, which places them at harm. Our medium to high risk cases are managed through the missing, slavery, exploited and trafficked arena, which is chaired by Northumbria Police. I co-chair that panel. We have missing from home episodes, and they're key indicators of young people who are being exploited. And we have a coordinated approach and full responsibility for return home interviews for each individual young person in Northumberland, regardless of age and whether they're an out of local authority young person or whether they're a Northumberland young person. Because as you'll know, young people may be placed here but from another local authority. So we treat them all as our own children. Our child-to-parent violence and abuse project delivers to young people and their families, and that is to support young people who might have confrontations and issues within the household. And what we do is work with parents on quite an exclusive programme that the team are trained on, to work with the parents to change their approach about how they may be parenting the young people and how to de-escalate and support young people when they are going through such difficulties. Because if they're being exploited outside the family home, behaviours may escalate within the home. So we've got like a couple of staff who are specially trained to work with those parents and their families. We've got an excellent success rate with regards to those. The workers act in a supportive role to the wider social care workforce and are also available to deliver training to the care teams around each individual young person and to wider groups and audiences within social care. We have the 14 plus and 18 plus teams 1 and 2. That is to support looked after children, so those who are in the care of the local authority, our young people who are 16 plus and in need, and those young people who are leaving care or have left care, so the care leavers, up to the age of 25. We work in partnership with wider agencies to ensure there's an appropriate care team meeting to support each young person and their family to ensure better outcomes for those children. We support young people's transitions into adult services, so we have a regular fortnightly at the moment meeting where we discuss young people at a very early age when we know they may have complexities with adult services. So senior management from adult service and myself, senior management from children's services, do a case-by-case consultation about those individual young people. We have education, training and employment panels, so I heard you mention how some young people have difficulties engaging in education and such like. So we have a particular panel set up to discuss those individuals, and the DWP are on that panel, and Northumberland Rescue Fire Services on that panel. We've got virtual careers advisors and so on. And so we look at every opportunity available to those children. We have the accommodation team, and they're responsible for ensuring young people are supported to access accommodation and maintain stability. They provide homeless 16 and 17-year-old support and work with housing partners and support accommodation providers to progress referrals. So we have a joint housing protocol in place that overarches that. We're currently resettling young people who are unaccompanied asylum-seeking children who are coming into Northumberland to be settled. We've got several, I think we've got about 9 other young people who were unaccompanied asylum-seeking children who are doing particularly well in Northumberland also. We have the Substance Misuse Service, and they provide interventions to young people up to the age of 18. We've recently been funded by NHS England to provide substance misuse support to those young people open to our service beyond 18. So that's another strand to the substance misuse service. The aim of the service is to provide direct harm reduction and support young people who have complex needs with regards to substance use. Sorted also provide advice, training to professionals to raise awareness and reduce the risks from substance misuse with young people. So we go into schools, we go into other professionals' working area. We would support locality social work teams and early help provision, and anybody else who wants us to deliver our specialist training around that to them. We have a health hub within the adolescent service, and that consists of a speech and language therapist, mental health and wellbeing nurse, and a substance misuse nurse. So that is to identify all of our young people's unmet needs if they happen. So we make sure that they're looked at from a health perspective and not just a social care perspective. So there are many of the services that sit within our portfolio, but we have been asked to come here to give an overview about our youth service provision today. So Ginny's the youth service manager, so I'll let Ginny take that, and you can, if you've got any questions, I'm happy to take them at the end.
Evening, everyone. The youth service has actually 3 distinct arms to the youth service in terms of how we engage with young people and how we deliver a sort of a universal provision across the entire county of Northumberland. So we have a prevention arm, we have our participation and advocacy service and our early help and missing service, which Sharon's touched on briefly before. Obviously, the services we provide are very much universal and are open to all young people across Northumberland. And we do a lot of work in terms of working with our voluntary sector partners across Northumberland to try and ensure that there is adequate provision for young people to access, whether that's been delivered by us directly within Northumberland County Council or our wider partners. And what we do in terms of the work we do with our wider partners is we try to gather sort of information to help us better inform where to deliver our services so that we can have a more targeted response in trying to meet the needs of those in the most deprived areas. And we also do a lot of work to try and support the voluntary sector in terms of growing their own. So it's about trying to provide that advice and guidance and training to the smaller voluntary sector providers that may need support and helping them to look at accessing for funding that might be available through the National Lottery and other funding streams. But in addition to that, we also have our wider partnerships with the police and obviously the Youth Justice Service and our sort of more generalised local community projects that are in and around the county. Bear with me. In terms of obviously our prevention arm, the prevention arm of the youth service is very much about the direct engagement with young people on a weekly basis, and that's generally either through our youth clubs, through our detached work, which is like street-based engagement with young people, or sometimes through the virtual online groups that we've established. Obviously, in terms of COVID, as you're all aware, it has had a significant impact in terms of how we engage with young people, but actually we've embraced that and we've actually got out into the communities and done the street-based engagement where we haven't been able to do the youth club-based projects. However, we are now starting to sort of revert back to having more indoor-based youth provision for young people and are currently slowly reopening those youth clubs that we have previously ran. We very much are about trying to engage, as I say, with our voluntary sector partners and to support our smaller providers in the community. We also try to work with our victim offender location meetings in terms of trying to target and understand where our hotspots are within the county, and then trying to work with all of the partners to see if we can put in a response to help support that wider community. We use obviously the information we gather from young people and their families as well to help inform the services we are delivering. And we'll continue to sort of reevaluate the work we do with young people and to try and listen to what young people want. In terms of obviously our participation and advocacy service, this is very much about specific pieces of work that we do with different groups of young people. So we support the Youth Parliament and the Youth Cabinet and support those young people who have been elected to the Cabinet and Parliament to progress the work around their agendas and to help them to get messages out across the county to all young people, as well as trying to encourage and promote the Make Your Mark ballot that takes place each year for young people, which allows young people to give their views across a wide range of issues that they feel are important to them. And we also support the wider Children and Young People's Plan that Northumberland County Council has. And again, part of that's about trying to engage with young people to get their views to help inform the services they receive and to look at how do we improve what they receive. In terms of obviously our advocacy service, that is a service that we deliver to any young person who is open to children's social care, and that's about enabling young people to have their voice heard. It can be about a young person having an issue in placement and feeling that they need additional support to be able to voice the concerns they've got. It can be about supporting young people to be able to access other services, and just basically trying to support and ensure that young people are heard by the wider care team and that their views are heard and carried forward in any of the plans that are being developed in conjunction with them. In terms of referrals, we had in the last 12 months about 85 referrals for young people, and we've been able to actually allocate a worker to each and every one of those young people to make sure that they've been able to be supported to have their voice heard. And we continue to use the Mind of Our Own app as another way to allow young people to communicate with us in terms of sharing their views. And again, the information we gain from Mind of Our Own is held and reported back to the individual care teams to help inform care planning for those young people. In addition to sort of the advocacy side, we obviously have the participation groups that we do very specific work with. So we have our Voices Making Choices group, which is very much about engaging with our looked after young people, giving them a forum to express their views and helping to shape, you know, the services they receive. We are just slowly moving back into group sessions with those young people, having had virtual sessions online with young people during COVID, and as part of that engagement, we'll do activity-based sessions with them to allow young people, I think, a natural resource in terms of being able to openly discuss their views. We also attend and support young people to attend the Regional Children in Care Council, and we work with our regional partners across the other authorities to try and promote the views and wishes of all young people who are looked after within all the local authorities within the region, and they will tend to highlight key items that they want all local authorities in the region to take forward, and we try to support them to progress those. We also have our Care Leavers Forum, and again that's about working with care leavers to try and gain their understanding of the services they receive and what changes they would like to see and how they feel about the services they do receive. We've done a lot of one-to-one work with young people over the period of the pandemic, but again are slowly starting to go back to group-based work, because what we found with our care leavers is that virtual group meetings wasn't working for them. So I think as a service we're looking forward to, you know, progressing to do more face-to-face work. And then we also have our Respect Equals Change group, and that's a number of groups that run within a number of our special schools, and it's supporting young people within those schools to have their voice heard and to be able to develop ideas and views that they may have, and to try and engage them within the wider SEND local offer. In terms of obviously the other young people we tend to work with, the other main group are Northumberland young carers. We do have a number of young people who are young carers within the county, and we do a lot of work with Northumberland Carers Direct around supporting and signposting young people into appropriate services. And we try to, where we are now returning back to youth-based services in terms of youth clubs, trying to think about how do we make sure the services we offer are readily accessible to those young people who may be young carers. Sorry, I've forgotten to move the slide. And then obviously the final sort of strand we have is our early help, which offers both missing and targeted youth support. The early help side of the service is very much about ensuring that young people are safeguarded, and where we've got young people who have gone missing, the service will go out to see both the young people and their parents to try and understand how or why that young person might have gone missing. Have there been any particular triggers or targets that have resulted in that young person going missing? And where there may be particular concerns, we will then help to signpost those young people into the relevant service. We also do, as I say, quite a lot of targeted support with young people. And again, that's about working with early help family workers, the youth justice workers to support young people and their families, and addressing any particular issues that might come up. We have been doing quite a lot of work with young people who have issues around gender identity and their own sexuality, and trying to support young people at home and parents understanding what it means for that young person, because sometimes they can be in conflict with one another. And then the final bit of the work we do is about how we engage and communicate with our voluntary sector partners. And as I say, we're very much here to try and support our voluntary sector partners to grow and to be able to deliver services within their own communities. So we'll provide quite targeted advice and support to our voluntary sector partners. We'll help look at funding opportunities for them, and we'll offer training and advice around safeguarding, identification of young carers, access to C-card training, as well as promoting links with our wider services within Northumberland Adolescent Service. Within the Tynedale area, we're actually specifically working with Allendale Youth Ambition and Halt Whistle Young and Sweet services at the minute to ensure delivery of services. However, we also work in partnership with the Prudhoe Youth Project and the Tynedale Youth Forum within the area, as well as attending other forums both regionally and within the wider Northumberland area, just to ensure that we're trying to support as many communities as possible in meeting and reaching as many young people as we can. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
Thank you very, thank you very much, Sharon and Jenny. You see the headline, youth service provision, and you don't have a clue what's coming next, really. And it is actually always amazing how much is on offer in this county, and it's fantastic. It's also good to see how the services managed to adapt during the pandemic. You know, with youth services, it's all right in some areas where you can go virtual, but with youth services, of course, not really. Maybe with the officers when they have the meetings about it, but that's the practicality. So the way it adapted is fantastic. Would anybody like that? Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. The lives of young people seem to be more complicated than ever these days, certainly from the days when the chair was a young person, a very long time ago. Not all councils provide youth service now, so I'm pleased to say that Northumberland are still doing this, and in Tynedale in particular, you mentioned some of the youth organisations there, and you do work in great partnership with those. Prudhoe, because I've got to mention it a few times in these meetings, has got a great long history of providing a well-respected service there, and I thank you to Sharon for meeting with me recently, and you certainly reassured me that the provision being provided in Prudhoe and throughout Tynedale is a modern service, and you're hitting in very difficult times the right level of support for these young people, so well done for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Scott.
Hello. I just wondered how you reach out to those with special educational needs and how you get the feedback from those children.
We actually go into the individual schools and we hold sessions within the schools and help to promote that interaction with young people. We actually also use, at times we've used the Key Fund opportunities as an opportunity for young people to actually develop a project around a key interest. So we'll go into the school and we'll work with a particular group of young people, ask them what are the key issues that are really important to them, and then from there work with that group of young people to develop that issue or that thing that they're really passionate about into something that's a wider project that they can actually deliver, and we'll support them to get the funding to actually progress that
just as we know, there's a lot of children from different areas of Northumberland travel to say, if you live in Prudhoe, a child could travel to Morpeth to go to school. So it's really important to get their views across in their local area. Okay.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to ask, you know, thanks for your presentation. And, you know, there is quite a wide and varied portfolio of work. But I was just going to ask, just with regard to your resources and your capacity, do you have enough people? Do you have the right level of funding from the council, etc.?
Well, we're very fortunate in Northumberland, as Gordon's just said, to have a youth service because we're the only one in the region who does. So we do have limited resources, of course, the same as everybody, but we do make the best of those resources and we're as efficient as we can. We actually have the rest of the services within NAS that can prop up any gaps or shortages within the service. But we also have vacancies at the moment in the youth service, which we're hoping to fill. So I do think on a needs basis, as long as we're working with community-based volunteer projects to help them bridge their gaps, and we use the resources we've got in targeted areas where it's most needed, then yes, that we're in a good position to be able to deliver that.
So how many vacancies do you have?
I think we've got three 16-hour posts, yeah. 3 16-hour positions at the moment.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Councillor Warren.
Councillor Kennedy sort of stole on my question a little bit, but so I'm a student social worker myself, so I kind of do see a bit of the things that go on with this. And so I read in the papers the other day that there was a shortage of social workers in the county and that there was a lot of agency workers coming in to fill those positions. Is there truth in that, and is that an issue in the service at all?
Yes, it is. It's a national issue, recruitment of social workers. So social workers don't sit within our youth service, but they do sit within the adolescent service and wider children's safeguarding services. So it's a national issue, trying to recruit to social work posts, and that's the same regionally and it's the same locally for Northumberland. It's got better more recently. What we've been able to do is recruit agency staff who have wanted to stay with us. So we have gone to agency and brought social workers in from agency, and we're interviewing those for permanent positions. So I think there's a benefit sometimes to have an agency staff because you can see how they practice, you can see if they're passionate about the area of work and if they're good at the area of work before they actually apply for a permanent position. So yes, there is an issue, and yes, we do take on agency staff, but that can sometimes be a good thing.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Right, could I just thank you, Shaun, Ginny, for everything and wonderful presentation. Can I just ask, any of these slides been made available as well? Yes. I usually get that answer, but I'll just ask just in case, because the time I don't ask will be the time they're not available. But thanks very much, ladies. Much appreciated. Right, we're just going to move on to item number 10 now, which is the local area work programme. Now, this is just to note what is coming up. You will see at the top of the programme that there are some that are already listed, which are off-street electric vehicle charging points, cycling, walking board and enforcement, and they'll be scheduled when they can be. As always, if anybody has any suggestions for, new suggestions or different suggestions for future LACs, you can either email myself or Nicola, and what we'll do is we'll, just one second, we'll take this to the local area chairs and vice chairs meeting, and if accepted, it'll go on to the next work schedule. Yes, Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. I did ask some months ago about inviting the Police and Crime Commissioner to come.
Are you going to take this one, Nicola?
I did give an update at the last meeting. That obviously it's just the timing, the dates of our meetings, and obviously their existing bookings. But at the moment, they're provisionally booked into the May meeting.
Okay, thank you. May next year. May next year.
Did you have your hand with there, Councillor Sharp?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Chairman, yeah, I talked to you about the railway, you know, the community partnership coming to a future meeting, Fiona Forsyth, you know, they were very keen to come to a meeting, and he said you'd take it back to the chairman's group. Have we got a date yet when that's going to happen?
I think we went chairman's meeting since then.
Or have we not? Right, okay.
I think I knows about it, and she'll put, you've got that down, I think you had it down already. The real, what's his proper full name again? Yes. Tyne Valley Rail Users Group, yes, that's it. Okay, so yes, that'll be done. Councillor Dale.
I think we asked quite a long time ago. We used to have annual updates from the ambulance service, and I think it would be a good idea that we keep in contact. I think it's good to work with them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. If you want to add that as well, I do know that they make regular presentations to the Health and Wellbeing Board, which are obviously on recorded live. So, but yes, I mean, I don't mind asking for that. Right, the date of the next meeting is Tuesday the 14th of December, which will again be here, unless you are told differently. It'll be at 4 o'clock. Go to urgent business. There's no urgent business as I'm aware, but I would just like to say one thing. It may well be that some people have not noticed, I mean, not everybody here, but some people who are watching this live, that there's one person missing today. One person who comes on a regular basis, and that is actually the Vice Chair, or ex-Vice Chair. So on a personal note, I would like to give my thanks to, for all the hard work being put in over the last 9 years by the now ex-County Councillor Kath Homer, who felt it necessary to resign at the end of last week. Now, I'm not going to go on too much about this, but in short, I'd just like to say a couple of points. In council meetings, we talk about respect a lot. We talk about stress, mental health of residents and officers and staff, and rightly so. So we should, and we do. But what we don't do, because apparently it's okay to fire abuse at councillors and their families with no restrictions or limits. Now, I'm going to put a codicil in here. As far as I'm concerned, that doesn't involve anybody in this meeting, so let's make that clear. But when it comes to vile, anonymous letters being sent through a councillor's letterbox addressed to their children, I think that myself is beyond the pale. So I would just like to finish this and say that if this is what floats these people's boats who do this, in my eyes, they're very sad excuses for human beings. Thank you very much. Good night. Can we close down that live feed, please, Ross?